Welcome to the Mouse and Men, where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. I'm Bradley, here alongside with Chris. Chris, how you doing?
Good, man. I love talking Disney and working our way through all of the different kingdoms and all the attractions. It's nice to be at EPCOT this week.
Yeah, so we've already looked at the Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, looking at all the different attractions and kind of creating our top 10 list for grown-ups. Now we're at EPCOT. Next week we'll be at the Magic Kingdom. So a lot to digest, but find us on social media at The Mouse and Men over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find us on YouTube as well, where we broadcast the podcast. And go to themouseandmen.com, where you can get our top 10 things for grown-ups to do in Walt Disney World, as well as find links to all of our social media. So with all that, let's just jump straight into EPCOT. So Chris, we've been doing this, just kind of going back and forth, talking about our favorite attractions, what we think are the best attractions for grown-ups. I think I went first last week, so we'll let you tee it off here this week.
Well, yeah, it's difficult sometimes to figure out, do I give my list in ascending or descending order? Because there's so many fun things to do at all of the parks. And so I'm just going to dive in with one that I've mentioned on several episodes thus far, which is one of my favorite thing to do in all of the parks, all of Walt Disney World, which is Spaceship Earth in EPCOT. That's my number one. It's the icon that you see as you're pulling in. If you Google EPCOT, it's the picture in the background of every EPCOT photo. It's right behind your head right now if you're watching the broadcast of the podcast. But Spaceship Earth is just such a fun and nostalgic entrance into EPCOT for me. Now, there has been times where, because there are two entrances into EPCOT, that you start in the back and you're in World Showcase. But if you're coming through, if you're getting off a bus or you've taken the monorail, you're going to go there first. And I think it's the best place for me and my family to start and end the day at EPCOT. And so that's why it's my number one for EPCOT, which is Spaceship Earth. What about you?
Well, I knew that would be on your list, and so I didn't even include it on mine. What's interesting? Well, I'll put it this way. If you're looking for thrill rides, EPCOT is not your park. But sure, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy EPCOT. EPCOT is a lot more about learning and understanding the world around us, which includes taking care of the land, being able to grow food to sustain ourselves. Lots of cool exploratory things there, but also World Showcase just being this place where we kind of learn about different cultures. But I'll start off with where you can get some thrills in EPCOT, and let's go to Test Track.
Ooh, yeah. Now,
let me preface this with saying I'm not sure if I've ever ridden Test Track. The line's always long because people want to go there, with it being kind of the most thrilling thing at EPCOT. Any roller coaster junkie is going to want to go there. But basically, you're hopping in a test car like they would do at large auto manufacturers and going through this course it simulates what it would be like to be in the car for a brake test and an acceleration test, testing the car against heat and extreme cold, that sort of thing. And then you, of course, get to just break out on the track and see how fast you can go, hitting speeds over 60 miles an hour in basically a convertible. So fun little thing to just whip around, and probably the most thrilling attraction at EPCOT, just from a roller coaster perspective.
Yeah, the a test track has always been a blast, especially when my kids are younger or were younger. Again, they're now both teenagers now, but you can get behind the wheel and kind of feel like that you, especially if you're in that driver's seat, you can kind of feel like that you're driving. And so they'd be like, "Yeah, it's me. I'm doing this. This is cool." And so we've loved it as a family for years. But I can remember the first time I went on test track. It was magical to me
Yeah.
because I didn't know what to expect. I knew at some point I was going to drive around a track in a roller coaster type speeds, or maybe even faster, because you get out there on that open track area, and like you're saying, if it's 60 miles an hour, that's pretty amazing, especially in an open aired vehicle like that you're in. But I love everything about it. I love the getting into it, and again, the queue, the ride queue of just seeing all the different ways that they test vehicles for the safety of the people that are inside of them, and then kind of participating in those drills yourself, whether it's the extreme heat, extreme cold, going around the bumps, figuring out if you're going to slide out. It's so much fun. And it kind of reminds me of other rides around Disney, kind of like Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
Dinosaur, how you're kind of on a moving thing that goes back and forth. So it's just a lot of fun. And again, it's one of those, especially because for my kids and the age that they are, EPCOT doesn't attract them like it attracts me, of just being able to people watch and learn about other cultures and those kinds of things. They want to really get into it in those thrill rides. And so that side of the park for my family at World Showcase, or I'm sorry, a Future World, is a must stop when we go to EPCOT.
Yeah. So what's next on your list, Chris?
For me, next is going to be right next to Test Track, which is Mission Space. When I first heard about it, Spaceship Earth and Mission Space, I got confused in my head for a while because they had space in there, and I thought maybe they're the same thing. They're not. I mean, it's Mission Space is an extreme thrill. That the first time that I rode it with my son, we both just went like, let's do the extreme version, but he was pretty young. And after that, we both spent a good part of the rest of the day just kind of like, ooh, kind of woozy from the G's that you pull, because it's kind of a centrifuge based ride.
Yeah.
But because the way that they make it feel is like you're actually going on a space trip, on a rocket or on a spacecraft. And so they were pulling those G's to simulate what it would feel like if you were in space. But because you are looking at the monitor, you're looking at the presentation that they're giving you, you don't really notice, like you can't see yourself spinning, you just feel yourself getting kind of pulled back in the back of your seat. So it is a thrill. It is the biggest thrill for me at EPCOT. And so usually for me, the biggest thrill would win out if I go to an amusement park or an experience. But because of the nostalgic atmosphere at Disney World, sometimes I just want to go ride It's a Small World or Peter Pan or Spaceship Earth, because I'm used to watching it and seeing it and experiencing it. And so not always at Disney will the biggest thrill win out for me. But if you want a thrill, Mission Space.
Yeah, it was second on my list. And I'll kind of piggyback on it for my next one, because I think this could use an update with a sponsorship from Tesla.
Ooh.
Wouldn't that be cool? Because they're what is it, SpaceX program?
Yeah.
I think that would be a cool partnership. Let's update this. Let's kind of rethink it, update some of the technology. I mean, that would be a big undertaking, but I think that would be cool. Just kind of helping cultivate that space exploration that was big. I mean, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then it kind of waned a little bit. I haven't seen the same excitement for space exploration now as I did when we were younger. And you'd get models of the different spaceships and rockets.
Oh, the shuttle. Yeah.
And I just don't see kids thinking about that as much. Maybe I'm just missing it, but I think that this could help kind of reignite some of that. Just like Tesla is doing with their SpaceX program and Elon Musk. So I would really love to see that. I don't know what's going to happen as Epcot's about to go through a big update.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I'm just going off memory here, but I don't think that Mission Space is one of those that's been talked about to go through any changes. But maybe after the rest of it has kind of gone through their changes, Mission Space can have an update of its own. Um, but yeah, they're two versions. There's a more moderate thrill level, and
Yeah.
then that's the green side, and then orange is a little more intense. Um, but yeah, you know, you're sitting in kind of a flight simulator thing. You have different roles. This I would believe is kind of a precursor to Smuggler's Run, where you're flying across galaxies and everybody's got a role. Everybody's got to help the mission succeed. Uh, Mission Space, I'm not sure if you succeed every time. Like Smuggler's Run, you get to, you know, you may not do as well if some of your team members
Oh, that's cool.
don't perform well. So, yeah, that would be an interesting twist, but don't quote me on your success rate in Mission Space, but just some thoughts for Imagineers. Again, Imagineers, if you're listening, feel free to contact us at podcast@themouseandmen.com. We got plenty of ideas for you. But
you know, I will say, just piggybacking on what you were saying too, is that is maybe one of the issues that I've heard with people in going to Epcot is that other places like the Magic Kingdom, you want to go ride Peter Pan, or you want to go ride Winnie the Pooh, or whatever it may be, Pirates of the Caribbean, because there's a nostalgic piece, and there's a re-ride ability in some of these things because it's just so much fun. But because Epcot is built as the experimental prototype city of tomorrow, a lot of what it talks about is what the future will look like. Well, it's interesting when the future starts to look like other people's present where they're at. Like my son, for Christmas, he got an Oculus virtual reality headset.
Yeah.
And so I know that years ago, when virtual reality was a new frontier and a new possibility, it's something that they showcased at Epcot, which was amazing. But now that those things are now in your home, why would you need to go see it at Epcot? And so for Imagineers, it must be a difficult task to figure out how they're going to reinvent it in a way to where the future is still being shown, or the present, how our world interacts with all of the limitations of when you install something like a Mission Space. It's going to be there and act kind of like it did when it first opened, like in a 20-year span. Some other rides, you know, have been across Disney World, have been there 40, 50 years. And so that kind of rewrite ability, when the present catches up with Disney's Epcot's version of the future, how do we continue to make it interesting for those new generations?
Yeah, I mean, you think about Tomorrowland in the Magic Kingdom. It's really in need of an update because it feels like the future when we were watching. I mean, I know this was on before we were kids. I think we just saw reruns, but the Jetsons.
Right.
I mean, it's got that kind of Jetsons feel, which is what we all thought the future would be. Now, we may still, you know, land on the moon and start building colonies there. I don't know if we can figure out some sort of bubble. I don't know. The NBA seemed to do pretty well with their bubble down at Disney. Maybe Disney is doing some experiments to maybe Disneyland Moon. Maybe that's the next park that opens. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that.
If you want to get people to go to the moon, that's a good way to attract them there. But yeah, I would love to see some of this update, and things like Mission Space, like Spaceship Earth. It doesn't have to change, like it doesn't have to go away, but just keep updating. Spaceship Earth being a little bit different because you're looking back in time, and in that way looking to the future, where a Mission Space, you know, space travel has changed. it's not just astronauts. For some, you know, unworldly price, you can actually be a civilian, go up in a SpaceX vehicle. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just kind of reigniting that passion to help uh, inspire the next generation of scientists who are going to figure out how we do this space exploration thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So some of the interesting challenges ahead, but a lot of what they're addressing right now with this big, huge future world remodel that they're doing. I'm really excited to see how this comes to fruition, and if some of this is going to either be amended or canceled because of the 2020 COVID
Yeah,
pandemic. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Where are you at? You're number two.
Okay, so my number two is a little bit of taking mission space and updating it with get Tesla in there somewhere.
I love that. Yeah.
Whether you like Elon Musk or not, he's in this space. Sorry for the pun, but I think that would be a good partnership. Just like Test Track has a partnership with Chevrolet,
Yeah.
It just fits. So I'll defer to you. Let's go to number 3 on your list.
Cool. Yeah, and I like that idea that like Tesla could be a new sponsor for Test Track, and then SpaceX could be a new sponsor for Mission Space, and they're right next to each other. So it'd be the whole Elon Musk portion of EPCOT.
I know, but I'm a Chevy guy. Look, I love what Tesla's doing. Their truck is ugly. And I'm a GM truck guy. So, but yeah, that would be interesting to have an Elon Musk park, as it were, with Test Track being Tesla and Mission Space being SpaceX.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah. All right. So number 3 for me, one of the things that I love most about EPCOT, and as I go to Disney World more and more, and I'm more familiar with everything, there are certain things that I like to do. Kind of what we mentioned a few minutes ago. I love EPCOT and going there to learn. And one of my favorite things to experience and see the updates and see what's going on currently is living with the land. It's a great little water flume ride through. It's not for the thrill seeker in you at all. It's a learning experience. But as you get in your vehicle and you're riding or floating through living with the land, you get to see different ways that people are using hydroponics and greenhouses. All these interesting and unique ways that we're now figuring out how to grow food for a population on the earth that's in the billions and billions, instead of the way that it was years ago. But the innovations of using hydroponics and planting things vertically, like planting tomatoes vertically versus planting them horizontally, you can make so much more in that space. And so it always gets my mind working and excited of the innovation that people put into things like that. And so living with the land is one of those that I just kind of, I love floating through and seeing how they're learning how to plant new melons or tomatoes or different plants from around the world that usually maybe you couldn't plant something like a coconut or something that's very tropical in a winter dominant part of the world, but because they figured out things with greenhouses and harnessing the sun, and you can figure out how to do that now. And so it's fascinating to me. So living with the land is one of those that I always love to stop by and float through.
Yeah, I've got an uncle who loves to tinker. I mean, he tinkers on cars. He was 15 or 16, took a car engine apart, laid it in the driveway just to see how it works, cleaned it up, put it back together. And the story goes that it actually ran better after he put it back together than before he took it apart. But he got into hydroponics, and in his apartment, I mean, he had the 55 or 100-gallon drum in his bathroom. If he needed to top it off, he just hooked a hose up to his sink and topped it off. But then it ran out of the bathroom through the apartment into his living room, where he was growing tomatoes and I think different sorts of greens, and just I can't remember what all was there. And of course, right next to it is his uh, like homemade furniture, not because he was poor, just because he wanted to. I mean, he got into woodcrafting. He just crafted his own
That's
furniture.
amazing. Yeah.
Um, built his own light stand. But having him take me through hydroponics was really cool to see how it works. How in this tiny space, he never had to buy any more tomatoes or greens or what all he was growing, and even had extras for his neighbors. So that, yeah, living with the land is a great one. Just going with the whole learning mindset. I'm going to say all of World Showcase.
Ooh.
This in itself is one huge attraction where you get to see America Pavilion kind of at the apex, but 10 other countries as well. And I mean, we've got, I don't know, a 12-part series, 13-part series on Epcot's World Showcase. So go check that out if you haven't already. But just going through and getting to talk with people. Look, the pandemic has shaken some things up. So you don't necessarily get to talk to as many people in each pavilion that actually live there, because just with travel restrictions and just trying to take care of people, that their physical health, there aren't as many country natives, citizens working in each of those pavilions right now as there would be maybe in a year, maybe in 6 months, when things hopefully start to return to normal. But you really get to experience culture from somebody else's perspective, and really enjoy getting to do that whenever I go to Epcot and wander through World Showcase.
Yeah, I agree. Again, we have dedicated over half of the episodes that we've put out thus far to the World Showcase and drinking around the world and that challenge that we did and all the things that we experienced there. And so I didn't want to focus too much on World Showcase because we dedicated so much time to it, but just wanted to mention maybe my favorite attraction inside there. Currently, it's kind of a tie between in the Mexico Pavilion and the Norway Pavilion. In the Mexico Pavilion, we have the Grand Fiesta Tour, starring the three caballeros. I always tongue tied when I say that. It's just it's a fun, again, walk down nostalgia lane when you go to Mexico. That ride has always been there, and I hope that it always will be, just because it's so much fun. But then also what used to be the Maelstrom at Norway that's now Frozen Ever After. So they took out the more Norway in current times specific Maelstrom ride and created the Frozen Ever After ride. Again, both of them water based, so it's a nice. I would say the Grand Fiesta Tour is more like living with the land. You're kind of flowing through and just being entertained, whereas Frozen Ever After is almost more like it's just more action, maybe more like Pirates of the Caribbean, something like that, to where it's a bit more excitement in there. But both of those, both water flume based rides, just a lot of fun. So if you're in the World Showcase, stop by that. I guess maybe that would be considered the east side of Epcot's World Showcase for both Norway and Mexico.
Yeah. So is that your number 4? So because I love those as well. I had not ridden the Frozen Ever After until we were down there in 2019. But love the Grand Fiesta Tour. Just always loved Donald Duck's antics, and the what he finds himself in. So this is number 4. So I've got 2 more.
Cool.
Like World Showcase, I mean, it's a little bit cheating because I don't know how many attractions each country is an attraction. So that's 11. Plus there are other little things inside there. So we'll round up. I mean, in marketing, you always round up. So that's about 20 different attractions that I threw all in one.
Right.
This, and I'm going to have to look up to see how many this is rolled up all in one.
Ooh.
I believe this is going to be 4-in-1.
Okay.
The festivals.
Oh, yes.
Now, the Magic Kingdom has kind of 2 big events. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, which I've visited. Tons of fun. We'll have to talk about that later. They also do a Very Merry Christmas Party, which I have not attended, but we'll get to. That's on my bucket list. Festivals. It seems like Epcot's always doing a festival. They've got Festival of the Holidays, which I think is just wrapping up if it hadn't already wrapped. And I can't remember. They may have not done it this year. But generally in January, it's wrapping up. You've got the International Flower and Garden Festival, the International Food and Wine Festival, and this one is a little bit newer, International Festival of the Arts. So it's stuff that's always changing. I'm most familiar with Flower and Garden and Food and Wine. Flower and Garden, they bring out all these not necessarily real topiaries. You get the Disney characters in like sculpted hedge form, or they bring out all sorts of extra flowers, but also they bring out food carts, and there's specials for that time of year. And of course, the Food and Wine Festival, it's all about food and wine. So you've got your 11 countries, but there are other countries that just make special appearances just for the Food and Wine Festival. And of course, there's wine. I'm personally not a wine drinker, but that doesn't hold me back from eating. So festivals is my next on my list of attractions. So when you're going down there, figure out what festival may be happening, because a lot of times that has its own map. You may get your Epcot map, but then there's a festival map that says all the special things happening for that festival.
Oh, that's smart. Very clever. I love the way that you did that. I have been there, I believe, during the Food and Wine Festival and the Flower and Garden Festival. And it's just such a cool kind of overlay to the World Showcase area. Such a fun and exciting thing to do because it's different every year. It's only for a limited time. And so if you can make it for those experiences, they're second to none as far as, again, you got Disney putting it together. So what do you expect? You always expect world-class entertainment and showings from all of the different offerings they have. So that was really good. Number 5.
I'll say this too. As they've grown in popularity, of course, they've added some new festivals, but they also lengthen the festivals. So it used to be, I think, just a couple weeks for Flower and Garden and Food and Wine. And then they started kind of letting them expand either way on the calendar. And I think that's only helped the fanfare for it grow. So really excited for them doing that and adding more festivals. So Chris, continue.
Yeah. So my number 5 is one that I initially experienced at Disney's California Adventure in Anaheim. And the first time that I rode this ride, I was just blown away at a level that I'd never been on an amusement park attraction, which they now have a version of this and have for years at Epcot, which is Soaring. It's labeled Soarin' over California at California Adventure, but I believe it's either just called Soarin', or I've also seen it called maybe Soarin' Around the World, I believe, is now an update. It's the multi-sensory experience of flying around in this hang glider to all of these different areas. It's amazing. It's amazing how they were able to create this with the Imagineers, create this ride vehicle that everybody feels like they're the only one in the experience, even though there's 40 or 50 people, or I don't know how many people can ride it at one time. But it's just incredible. And so the feeling of being immersed in the world, because they have the big, huge screen in front of you, and then the sights that you see, the smells, the wind hits you, and it's from a sensorial place. It's one of the coolest things I had ever experienced the first time I rode it. So Soarin' is definitely got to be on my list if I'm going to Epcot. So it comes in at number 5 for me. And again, all of these are not necessarily in a specific order, but I definitely need to make sure that I hit all of these when I go to Epcot. So Soarin', number 5.
Yeah. What's interesting, I'll give this tidbit. I don't know that I've ever gotten motion sickness on any ride except Soaring Around the World. And I don't know if it was just because the illusion of how fast I was going was not matching the wind speed that was hitting me in the face, or if I'd just eaten something that maybe didn't agree with me. I don't know. I mean, I didn't get sick, but it's just like, man, I don't feel so great after that one. But
Yeah.
it is so cool. And like you were saying, it feels like you're the only one in that kind of virtual hang glider. The way that they do the screen and the positioning of everybody, it feels like you're the only one out there when you're really in there with, I don't know, 100 of your closest friends inside. But they do the thing like they do really all over the parks with smells, where you're flying over California orange groves or Florida orange groves. I'm not sure whose orange groves they are. And you smell the citrus in the air. You go through the rainforest and you can just kind of smell the humidity. If you're from the South, you know exactly what we mean. But yeah, they did a fantastic job with Soarin' over California, bringing it to Orlando. And I know this is one that you prefer the California version, right?
Well, I think because I wrote it first,
Yeah.
is why I prefer the California version. I think that a couple of weeks ago we were talking about our favorite attractions from all of the parks, like what our top one was, and it probably is. If we were talking about California Adventure, it would be up there for me, and probably top 1, 2, or 3. And again, maybe it was because of the impressionable nature I didn't know what to expect the first time I wrote it, and so it just blew my mind that it could. I could experience something like that on a ride where I was essentially inside of a room, but I felt like I was riding a hang glider over mountain ranges and orange groves and whitewater rafting and all that. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, so my last one, look, I cheated with festivals. I cheated with World Showcase. Why not cheat again? It's the things that are coming soon.
Yeah.
And there are 3 that I'm really looking forward to. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure.
Yes.
I've got no idea what this is going to be like, other than I'm shrunk down to the size of a rat. Although these seem like really small rats, more like mice. But anyways, shrunk down really small and getting to see the world through Remy, who's the main character in Ratatouille, from his perspective. Then there's also a Guardians of the Galaxy attraction. I honestly know nothing about this. All I know is I love Guardians of the Galaxy. Great soundtrack. Just hilarious. Love those movies. Love those characters. And then there's this play pavilion. And I'm not sure what this is either. But I do know that play is essential to creativity and exploration. Look, even in the workplace, there's some sort of new technology or new capability. And what do we say to each other? Hey, just play around with it. And so there's going to be some sort of pavilion that explores the world of play. I'm really excited about that. So that Guardians of the Galaxy, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, really excited about what's to come. I mean, we've talked about Epcot is next on the list because they just got through with Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge and Hollywood Studios. So the next park that they kind of moved on to transforming is Epcot. It's already begun. Some of this is finishing up, and I love what's coming to Epcot. I think as soon as this summer 2021. So buckle up. Look, I know there's some other things that were coming, like some Mary Poppins attraction of some sort, put on hold indefinitely. Not sure what's going to happen there. Hopefully we get more news of that in the coming year or two. But really love just things always evolving, especially in an experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Well said. Yeah, I agree. I always look forward to the things that are coming, and it seems like they never get here fast enough, because some of these announcements they put out years before the thing is actually built, and so there's always something to look forward to. So I love that you are focusing on, especially in the city of tomorrow, what it will look like at Epcot when all of these things are finished, and hopefully they can stay on track with most of these things. Again, I'm really excited about the Play Pavilion, about the Galaxy's Edge. Not Galaxy's Edge, Guardians of the Galaxy. See, I get these words confused when they have the same words in them. But yeah, some of these new things that are coming down the pike. Again, I heard that they're maybe pushing pause either for the moment or indefinitely on the Mary Poppins thing, and so that saddens me a lot because it sounds so exciting what they were going to do with that. And that area of World Showcase could have really used something like that, especially to tie it into a Disney park and product that is so naturally in the world of Great Britain in that area there. So hopefully soon. But yeah, I love that. I'm looking forward to those as well.
So I just had this thought. You want to talk about worlds crossing over, and I know Star Wars fanatics are going to say, no, get out of here. Guardians of the Galaxy's Edge.
Ooh.
Where you've got Star-Lord and Groot and whoever who just, they're just trying to get away from bad guys, good guys, I don't know. And they just find themselves at Black Spire Outpost, just kind of, what in the world is this place? What's going on? Find themselves in the middle of a firefight. I don't know. It sounds great just in my head off the cuff. Again, Imagineers, email us at podcast@theMouseandMen. We got tons of these ideas. We'll tell them to you. You tell us if they're great or not.
Yeah, it seems like that, again, Marvel comic book universe or the MCU has crossovers, but now that MCU is owned by Disney, and so is Star Wars now, there could be a nice crossover of the crossovers because they're all under the same galaxy, so to speak, or the same universe of the Disney banner. So why not?
Yeah.
Sounds fun to me.
Or if they're in two different galaxies. So technically they are separate. Galaxy's Edge is on Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. Take a wormhole to the next galaxy.
Just right across the galaxial road tracks would be where the Marvel Cinematic Universe lives. Look, the Guardians may find themselves on the outskirts, accidentally cross over the train tracks, and find themselves in the world of Star Wars. Crazier things have happened.
I love that idea.
Chris, anything else before we move on to our plussing, or are you ready to plus it up?
No, let's plus it up, baby. I mean, the fact that we're acting as virtual, non-paid Imagineers already, might as well just if that's their mandate to take the Disney experience and to plus it, might as well do that for us in this one podcast episode.
Let's do it.
Plussing.
So this week's plussing, again, we're going back to Disney Plus. It's Soul. It debuted on Christmas Day because it was supposed to be in theaters. Disney changed plans because nobody was going to be in theaters, and unveiled Soul on Disney Plus exclusively. My wife and I watched it. My son, who's a year old, he doesn't really watch much of anything. He kind of watches 3 or 4 seconds and then goes and plays and then comes back. So we watched it, loved it. My wife said, "Hey, I've got to watch that again just because I feel like there's so much there." But that I know you haven't seen it, so I don't want to give anything away, but you need to watch it in the next couple weeks, listeners, because Chris is going to watch it, and we are going to explore the world of Soul in just a couple weeks after we finish up this attraction series. The animation's fantastic. The storytelling is great. I'm just impressed once again with Pixar's storytelling, and I'll just leave it at that. But check out Disney's Soul on Disney Plus.
You know, as much as I'm sad, I love going to the movies, even though the experience, I'm often paying for me and 3 other family members exorbitant ticket prices, especially if you want to see something in IMAX or the weekend that it comes out on these big screens and experience all the sights and sounds. And then our local theater has the ability that you can even buy food and have it delivered to your served right to you. So you don't have to stand in line and get popcorn or even get a burger or a steak or whatever it may be. And so some of those experiences I really love about movie theaters. And I hate one of the biggest things that we've mourned as a family is not being able to go to the movie theaters. We usually go every month or two and see, somewhere between 6-10 movies at the theater, usually per year. I often then go by myself and see some that interest me, that don't interest the rest of the family. So I've been mourning that a lot. But even though it has been difficult to come to grips with, we have had the opportunity in a pandemic to have some movies that we would be going and paying and sitting in a theater to experience. We get it right in our living room or right in our bedroom or right on our iPhone or iPad, whatever it may be. And so the ability that we have to watch major motion picture releases the day that it comes out right inside the Disney Plus app it's special. And I don't know what this means for the future of things like theaters and being able to experience something like that collectively with other humans breathing in the same room. But the fact that we got Soul on Christmas Day, it's cool. It feels like, talking about EPCOT, it feels like we're in the future, that all these things are beamed directly into our house in the way that we used to have to wait for it to come to the theater and then wait another 6 months or so and it comes out on VHS or DVD, or you get it maybe a month before that on pay-per-view or something like that. And then you have to wait and add it to your collection and then download it onto your computer to be able to kind of watch it on demand in a way that now we get to just go and push a button and it pops right up and we get to watch. So I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to, in the next couple of weeks, review it with you. And so I think that's a great blessing this week.
Well, if you've watched Soul, let us know what you think. You can email us, just like the Imagineers will be emailing us. Hopefully you don't get flooded out with all those Imagineering emails, but you can email us at podcast@themouseandmen.com. You can go to themouseandmen.com to find links to all of our social media sites, or you can just find us at The Mouse and Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us on YouTube where we broadcast the podcast. But while you're at themouseandmen.com, check out our top 10 things for grown-ups to do at Walt Disney World. Look, EPCOT is really cool. It's a field trip. If you pull your kids out of school, take them to EPCOT, they will learn so much that they'll be able to take back and take to social studies, to science, look, math is involved in all this growing stuff as well. Math's involved in all the sciences. There's plenty there to educate your children and yourself. So go check it out, because you can't grow up too fast.
But you got to keep exploring.